Hi and welcome to War HQ. My name is Lucius. Today's episode, what we'll be going through is my thoughts on 3D printing. In specific today, we'll be looking at 10mm miniatures and Warmaster. Now, Warmaster is an interesting game. We've had a couple of videos on this in the past. Originally a Games Workshop product, now pretty much solely run by the community. But today what we're looking at is the Forest Dragon miniatures, and they are the Wood Elf line that they have. And these are really amazing, and I'm going to go through some of the tips, some of the ideas I have with this, and some of my experiences I'll share with you on printing. But for now, if you like this sort of content, then please subscribe. We'd love to have you as part of this channel. If you're a complete legend and you really like what we do, remember we have the Patreon link down below if you're interested in that at all. But for now, let's get started. Brief look at the equipment that we're using here, and my newly acquired 3D printer is the Frozen Sonic Mini 4K. Now this one was a bit of a revolution, as it was the first sort of small personal printer with 4K resolution, or sort of a truer 4K resolution. Some of the larger ones have it, but this one is actually to scale, so with the screen, so it's more truer to 4K than some of the larger ones available currently. But I've found this machine is amazing. Like, what it can actually achieve is amazing. The learning curve, it took me a little while to understand this machine and how it goes. I'm fairly new to 3D printing. I've only really played around with the filament stuff before. This is my first resin printer. I've been saving for it for a while. I've been really excited about it. It took months and months to get here, so I'm super happy to have this now. And honestly, I've been running this straight for about 9 days now, without stopping, and it's a real workhorse, eh? And there's a lot of things that I've learned along the way, and I'll share those as we go through this video. But just for now, I wanted to show you the equipment we're using, just so you know how you can achieve these results for your Warmaster figures, if you're looking for something similar than I've got. And for now, let's go have a look at the figures themselves. All right, here's a bit of a bird's eye view of the army itself. I'm just going to show you this. Now, the Forest Dragon figures themselves are very highly detailed for what they are. Like, these are 10mm miniatures, you've got to remember. Most of them have 6 per stand. Some of the larger ones have less. If you have a look at these Dryads over here, or the Spearmen, you're looking at 6 per stand. And the details that you get in them are amazing. And I'll just do a little bit of a hover over here so you can have a little bit of look at what we're looking at, and then I'll go into these individual models themselves. But Forest Dragon are very generous with these. I think this entire set, this is everything that's in their range, maybe bar some of the other dragon options. I've just got the hero and the dragon, but you can get the sorcerer, you can get other options as well, and all the heroes are over there in the far corner that I've printed out, and I've pretty much printed every variation they have. But they do have these, every single one of these ranges of figures has a supported version, which is quite good. It has an unsupported version if you want to do your own supports, and it also has the figures as individuals, so that's really cool too. If you want to use them for alternative games, or you want to make your own mixes of stands, I think those are very attractive features within this set. So for $60 US currently on Gumroad, I think this is quite a bargain for what you're getting. I mean, what you're looking at here is a lot of different variation, a lot of different figures, and it really captures that flavor of the Wood Elf army itself. All right, what we're looking at here, I'm just going to show you some of these figures individually. The first one here is quite nice. This is a just one of the command units for the elite infantry option, the ones without arrows. And as you can see here, very detailed. Do with the axe is quite cool, and looking from behind there as well. These banners are really interesting. They come with the option of having like something on it or not, and there's 2 different banner options, so they can really get 4 variants there if you wanted to. Here is just one unit of the War Dancers, very dynamic poses. You've got troops jumping over the top, you've got people running forward and swishing around dancing, so they really capture the spirit of the Elven War Dancers really well. The Elven Tree Spirit Dryads here, really cool models. As you can see, 6 per base, really stacked them in there. They look pretty ferocious. These are some of my favorites. I quite like all the woodland stuff in this. It's They're kind of a bit of a standout for me, as cool as the elf stuff is as well. But I'm going to get as many units of these as I can, I think, because they're quite affordable and they're quite good in the game. Ahead of the dryads, you've got these larger tree spirits, and I've sort of got these. I'm going to base them in groups of 3 on the stands. And I think, yeah, these again, you could enlarge these and make something, you know, tree men if you wanted to, like bigger tree men, but there are tree men in this range as well. But yeah, these greater wood spirits are very cool. These are the first of our archer units, or infantry archer units, and these are the Way Watchers. Very detailed models. These ones, there's a lot going on. Bit of a big painting experience, I guess, for such a small model. I think it's quite detailed. But you can see there, they come in groups of 2, and you have a number of different options there and variations. Now your Glade Guard infantry, a bit of a mainstay of the elves there. Pretty unarmoured, these guys, but quite cool. Similar detail to those Way Watchers. They a unit you're going to take a lot of in this army, I think. Shooting is obviously, you know, this army's strong point. It is very high in shooting. These guys, these Way Watchers, also come with, you know, command options as well, so banners and leaders and all that sort of good stuff. Now here's your a command option, or your leader option for one of them, for your Glade Riders. And these guys, yeah, cavalry, very dynamic poses again. Some of the horses are rearing, some of them are charging. The models look great. As you can see here, like this 3D mini really picks out detail really well, hey, and it's so smooth. Like you really can't see any marks or lines. Even the supports with these things have been done quite well. It makes it very hard to sort of fault them. Definitely some of my favourite figures in this range are the Wild Riders. And the Wild Riders are stags. They're mounted on stags, and they're all pretty much lancers, really. They just charge in. There's no bows. But I think the figures themselves are amazing. Like, you have a look at the dynamic poses here. You've got some, you know, jumping, landing, leaping around. Very action-orientated poses in this Wood Elf army, which I really, really like. It gives that forward motion sort of feel about the army. And a lot of these kind of 10mm armies can tend to be quite drab and sort of boring, especially without, you know, variation and no sort of movement. But with this resin printing, you can really achieve a lot, because, like, with, you know, the ability to put the different types of supports, different levels of supports in there and customize them, you can really make these print well in any sort of pose. And there's not really many contact points, as you can see here, just the 2 front legs, back legs, and they've sort of joined it with this tree thing in the middle. So yeah, Wild Rider's looking great. Another iconic unit and standout in this force is the Warhawk Riders. As you can see here, super detail. They're all sort of mounted on trees, which is great. It takes away that need to have like flight stands, because they've already got a pre-inbuilt flight stand by standing on trees or flying over them. I think that's a really good feature. That's one of the nice little Warhawk models there. You can see it's pretty flawless. All right, to complement all the other tree spirits, you do have the tree men themselves. No surprise here. I like the combination of like leaves and bits of twig and stuff there. There's quite enough detail on there to make them really stand out on the battlefield, I think. There's 2 variations of these tree men. I printed them both. I did see something, because you can get the greater, like the tree man leader in your team as well. And I've seen people take these figures and then just enlarge them a little, just to make them stand out on the field. So if you want a tree man leader, there's an idea for you too with your resin printing, is you could enlarge one of these guys, and there's your leader. There are a number of leaders in this. I've printed out 9 of them. There's a couple of variations for this dragon here. You can see this wood dragon, forest dragon, which is just amazing. I like how they've done the wings as leaves. They look like leaves. Very high detail on this. I mean, have a look at the back as well. You can see like vines and stuff with leaves, and it all looks very cool. I think for 10mm, this is, you could enlarge this, you know, up to probably a 28mm scale, and it would still look really good, undoubtedly. Okay, here's like a lord on a stag, another option that you have for your leaders. He looks great. I love this miniature. He's a bit more static, but I think he looks imposing and cool. This centaur dude is super interesting. It's a really cool model. I don't know if the rules support it or not, but I suppose you could just take him as a leader anyway. But really cool model. You have a ranger hero, which is interesting, so probably like a way watcher or whatever they are. This guy's cool. He's just up on a branch. Another dynamic pose. Lots and lots of detail you can get in this. As again, you could easily make this a larger model and it would still look really cool. You have a foot variation here of your champion. He's cool. He's got like little hawks and stuff flying off everywhere. Nice big heroic pose, standing up there on a rock. Yeah, cool little imposing model. You have your tree spirit sort of branch wraith option here, so a magic user. This one's quite nice. Now this model's sort of like a fairy sorceress. She's got wings. She's got this like sort of spray of flowers around her, which look really nice. I quite like what they've done with this model. Again, very dynamic pose and interesting to the eye. You could put a lot of colour into this one, and I think it'll come up really well painted. Here's the last of our hero figures, and it's a sorceress on a unicorn. Very cool model. Love this one. Another sort of standout figure here, one I missed, was the leader or champion on Warhawk, and he is looking mighty fine. Again, with the same as the other Warhawk riders, he's on a tree, which makes it look quite imposing and eliminates the need for a flight stand, which is such more a creative idea and really looks good. So what lessons have I learnt printing in this 10mm scale and with these Forest Dragon figures? I've learnt quite a lot, actually. Now, I've been doing a lot of work currently with 3D printing. I've just done 3 or 4 armies of Epic Armageddon, which is in 6mm scale, and hardly any of those were as well supported as these miniatures were. And the increased size of the 10mm and the pre-basing really makes a big difference when printing these and the success that you will have. Now, what you're seeing before me probably took me about 4 build plates to do all of the models, and then I think I had a couple of extra little heroes and stuff that I whacked onto another build as well that I was doing. So you can fit a lot of these models on the build plate themselves. Now, the only ones that sort of, you need a bit more spacing with these are the Wild Riders, so the ones with the stag heads, the cavalry. They do actually bump out a little bit, and also the blade, the war dancers as well, have a bit of, swords and things that sort of poke out beyond the base, but that's pretty easy. And look, the actual support that they've given you with these files is pretty good. I was able to run just most of them just straight up. As I said before, probably only the Forest Dragon itself that I put some extra supports on, but I now thinking about it, I don't think I actually needed it. It's very well designed so that the resin flows quite well and supports itself as it prints along. The only real error I had a couple that have sort of a thinner base, so they sort of peeled a little bit towards the end, but sometimes that can be to do with the weight, or sometimes it can be to do with the Z-axis of the actual print itself. And that is one recommendation I really can't stress enough is, now the Frozen, especially if you're using a Frozen Sonic Mini 4K like I am, it isn't the most robust arm that holds the build plate. I've got to say it, and other creators have said this as well, that it is a little bit flimsy, and that's not saying it's poorly made. It's actually quite robust, I think, as a machine, but I think the arm could have been buffed up a little bit, because I have noticed over when I do a few prints in a row, what I can sometimes get is just a little micron out on one side of the build plate if I push too hard on it when I've taken it off and put it back on, and I think that can throw off the actual sticking ability sometimes just from the base, because I do get it on one side or the other. It's always at the extreme edges, you know what I mean? And that can happen also if your build plate isn't level. And that's another recommendation I give to, is to, as most creators, if you guys are into 3D printing, you've probably seen this in other channels, is that a lot of people are recommending that you sand the build plate, and I do recommend that. But there is another solution too, which I've used, and that is a system called Wham Bam. So these plates, they're actually made by Wham Bam. That's the name of the plates as well. And what they are is a magnetic strip that you put over your, your normal build plate. And you can get these for pretty much most printer models for resin. And it's a magnetic strip, and then you get 2 separate sort of flexible stainless build plates that go with that, and they have a little tab, and you can basically just rip it off. which is really cool. The only thing is, do make sure that you let the adhesive sort of strip of the magnet set for, I think it's 72 hours they recommend, and I really do recommend that. You don't want to go around with any problems of the adhesion, and then it might sort of fall off after a while. But that does mean you won't be able to use your machine for 72 hours. So that was a bit of a bummer when I first got the machine. I'm like, oh my god, now I've got to wait 72 hours. But look, it's worth it, because the wham bam plates themselves are a really good idea. It enables you to not have to take off the build plate all the time, and that is where I think you lose a lot. You lose a lot of resin. You lose a lot of time. Your build plate can be a bit can get a bit unlevel, or you can put the Z axis out a little bit every time that you were to put these, to take it on and off all the time in between builds. But this way, you can literally just peel the plate off, whack another plate on, and then you can spring all those off and clean that individual plate while getting the printer ready to print again. Which I really, really recommend. Solid recommendation for me if you're doing this sort of stuff is to get a wham bam plate. But I've printed these as well without those wham bam plates, and they're totally fine. As I said, I had one little hiccup, and I think beyond a couple of bases that are a bit thin, I think a one of the extreme sides of the dryads, just one of the models didn't print just from sort of the shoulders up, I guess. So no big deal. When you look at all the hundreds of miniatures in front of you, that's a pretty good result, really, I think. So I'd really recommend these to people. Let me know how any things you've encountered. If you do print with a Frozen Sonic 4K as well, what things did you encounter? Have you printed these? Because I've printed them, and as I said, pretty much a stock standard Sonic Mini, besides the build plate addition there, and then the sanding. Some people do experience problems with the leveling. They do have quite a thick black tape which runs under the Frozen Sonic Mini, under the build plate, and it does make it hard to do a Z-axis alignment. But I just found with mine, loosen it off enough and apply enough pressure, and you can get it down enough that it would be printing perfectly every time, especially in this 10mm scale. I mean, this 10mm scale is really easy, especially when pre-supported and on bases. The main problems I've encountered with this printer are individual figures, and usually at a 6mm, which is just so small. It just makes it so easy when they're in a sort of a non-cured state and they're a bit wobbly and a bit flimsy. They can be quite easy to break at that, but I didn't find that with this scale. It's quite easy when it's pre-supported like this. There's no real dramas at all. But let me know down below if you've experienced any dramas, what printers you've used, for this kind of models. Did you get similar results? I mean, I'm really interested. The 4K I went straight to with resin. I've never really dabbled into resin before, but I'm really happy with the results. The results are amazing. I mean, the quality is outstanding. It far exceeded anything I thought, and I'm really glad now that I waited on getting a resin printer until they did get that technology of that kind of true 4K within a personal resin printer. So I'm quite happy with that. For now, thank you so much for watching this. I will be doing some more on this Wood Elf armor. You can see here I haven't based it properly yet. It's just all been printed and cured, so I haven't based it up, and I haven't sort of thought too much about how I'm going to do the army itself. But you can see there I've got some I'll probably add a few more units. I think probably a few more Eagle Riders and stuff like that, but I've sort of printed out what I thought I'd need, I guess. So I will be doing a bit of a faction breakdown on these Wood Elves for Warmaster, so stay tuned for that one, and then also a bit of a painting guide when I get there. But for now, my name is Lucius. This is War HQ, and we thank you very much for watching this content. Please subscribe. And if you are a complete and utter legend, consider Patreon. But for now, thank you very much.